It's not. It says
Isn't-
it's just not. Okay.
I'm sorry, I'm dressed like a bum.
Yeah.
I had a New Year's resolution
Ah,
first for Nancy to stop knocking stuff down in the studio. No, that because after we went to the Cat Timp wedding,
Yeah.
we did this one of the last times we did this. It's been a while since we've done this.
Yep.
We were dressed nice for a wedding.
but we were
You
dressed.
were probably dressed in that same thing.
No,
I know you weren't.
thanks a lot. I'm invisible here. I was in a gown, but I will say that my hair looks so nice that when I went to the hairdresser recently, I showed her that picture and said,
Yeah.
"That's what I want."
At any rate, I was like, okay, that's it. I'm going to dress nice and smart because it's hot as death out there, and I'm lazy bum. So sorry for dressing like a lazy
No,
bum.
but what are you wearing on your head, which some people are going to get super jealous about?
Uh-oh. Is that a fifth column head swag thing?
It's a fifth column swag,
That's
baby.
just a light. Okay.
Yep.
Yeah. So can't tell you any information about it because it's the fifth column, and I don't know any information.
Yeah.
But I have a hat on my head. So.
But I can tell you, like, our Paloma media caps are like, basically it's kind of like a stick-on thing. Yours is stitched, fat.
Nice.
It's like 4 inches thick in the stitching. So
sentient life of its own.
I'm really blown out here. I am brightly lit.
Turn on that light.
I think it's that one over there.
Yeah.
It says, I never knew what Matt Walsh looked like before.
Look, Stinky Ray. What's your name?
Ray Stinksky. Hey, Ray Stinksky.
It's funny. Okay, for those who don't get the joke, in case Ray's not telling it, there's a guy named Matt Walsh on the internet. I think he has a beard. He's like a conservative Christian guy, and he's like an outrage artist on Twitter. So he's always on the verge of saying something so horrible that people immediately, about once a week, will say, "I can't believe Matt Welch said that."
And wasn't it the case like people have accidentally booked you thinking it was him?
Either a radio show or even like Fox, thought I was going to be him, but then we just kind of rolled with it anyways.
Oh, look who's saying hello to us. It's Liz Wolf. Hi, Liz Wolf.
Pa. We're not that old.
Yeah. Well,
we're not that young.
We are way old enough to be her parents.
Are we actually older than her parents?
I think we are older than her parents. Hi. But we got to get you back in here, Liz, soon. The next time, well, basically whenever you want. And Alcohol Jouster is saying next time use grow lights. Not our thing, but okay.
So listen, no, I say I'm the person. I want to know why you're so mad at Matt Taibbi. Where did he touch you?
I've asked him, but he just won't. Okay, so I'm not mad at Matt Taibbi. Actually, I'm like, and it's so funny because you sent me his newsletter when I was literally about to send it to you. So Matt Taibbi today in his newsletter talked about how over the weekend in Portland, an Antifa kid, Black Bloc, went up to a reporter, yelled at her face, kind of like pushed her down, and then she kept following them, and she got like hit with paintballs. I don't know what she got in her face. It kind of looked like when I've been tear gassed, like you literally can't open your eyes, and they had some close-ups. And he basically said, look, this stuff happens. Antifa also commits this kind of stuff. It's really not reported anymore. And maybe, the media's got to get on the stick and start reporting this too, not just like when the Proud Boys do something terrible, or when, there's like some little LARPing thing, live action role playing between these groups. Like, we got to call it as we see it. And I got, how do I say this? I got extremely agitated because it has been what I have been doing since last July, when I went to Portland. I started reporting Nazi, all this stuff. So I put a little post up about this, and it resonates, and it also resonates with the people that are like, why do you love the Proud Boys, Nancy? And I'm like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, it's all whataboutism. When I see right wingers do idiotic stuff, I report it. I happened to be surrounded last summer, as we all were, in front of the courthouse and in front of the federal building and marching in the streets, by Antifa. That's what I reported. I mean, I don't know what this, it's just a big fucking mystery here. But in any case, I will say one thing about the video that Taibbi posted today. It was longer. And in the second part, like the guy, I don't know who was reporting, I remember his name. He also photographed some Proud Boys going in and turning over a vehicle, a medic vehicle. I don't know if it's an official medic vehicle or, Antifa runs these vehicles. There's like a snack van, there's a medic vehicle. So I don't know who it belonged to. And then apparently later on in the day, I don't know if it was a Proud Boy, it was somebody right wing pulled a gun. And that is, not a good thing, obviously. I guess I don't really know why this little series of tweets I put on. It's still going bananas over there if you're interested. But
I'm muting the conversation right now.
Yeah, it's just why are you tagged in it? You're not tagged in it.
I am because
I'm sorry.
Because you said I'm going to talk with Matt Welch about this later on.
I'm so sorry.
Like all these people.
I'm sorry.
When did you stop being a Nazi?
Yes, and when did you start being a Nazi? And I actually got into it a little bit with this one guy. I can't remember his name. Doesn't matter. And it's like, he just keeps coming back to me with whataboutism. Well, Nancy, what about those people that turned out of the van? I'm like, yeah, that's bad. You know what I also noticed today, which I did not know. So I was talking about the violence in Portland that I saw. Oh, well, apparently there is now a big difference between violence and vandalism. Violence, bad. Vandalism, fine. So because I said that I saw violence, I have now apparently I don't understand the difference. Because if you set a building on fire, if you blow whatever, that's not violence. That's vandalism, and that's fine. There's a difference, which I thought like, oh, okay. I mean, I disagree with this. I fundamentally disagree with that. When you're committing violence, obviously to a person, it's worse than if you set a building on fire. But you know what? When you set someone's house on fire, a building on fire, that kind of belongs to somebody. And I don't think that they make a big distinction between that.
And in fact, as you're reporting from the get-go, showed at the courthouse, I believe, the jail, or if that's the same thing, they were hucking shit in there, literally, and also setting fire to things, knowing that there are people inside.
Well, you know what? I have to say, I don't know what they knew. Okay. They were so hot.
But there were people inside.
There were people and prisoners inside.
Yes.
Downstairs in the basement when this was set on fire. And a woman I interviewed, like, her family is calling her and going, the building's on fucking fire. Get out. I mean, they're terrified for her. And upstairs, she can just hear stuff being thrown around. And she's also at the same time trying to check in prisoners. I mean, that's a bad situation, but that is apparently, if you're using their rubric, is that the wrong term? Then that's okay. Because you're only committing violence to a building. I disagree with that. Anyway, people are mad there. They're like, you're, besides the Nazi and all that stuff. What's that called when you immediately go to Nazi? What's that formula called?
It's what's his face? He's a reason contributor, Mike Godwin's law.
Godwin's law. It will always go to, so, that happened today, but it's also, they just want to say like, well, you don't count or whatever, because you report for places that we don't like. I'm going to not go on about this on and on and on, but I will just say that I think we did have an imbalance of reporting last year, in my opinion, where, I think people sort of believed like, well, most of the protesters are peaceful, which is true. And that if we call out the behavior of any of them that are not, we're going to like tar the whole movement. So we're just going to and Trump bad. So we're just going to kind of let this go. And that was how the reporting was. I think that's changing a little bit. I think people are getting called out now, no matter who you are. You're Proud Boys, you're Patriot Prayer, you're Antifa, you're Black Bloc, you're just being a fucking Yahoo person who wants to gain some identity, and you're beating up a woman and it's captured on camera. You're going to get called out for it. I think that's changing a little bit, and I think that's fair. I think anybody, and I said this today, anybody that is doing something, I call it as I see it. I do not have a dog in this fight. They don't want to believe that, of course, but that's how it is.
So, just for some clarification stuff, because I think this affects the way that Portland is talked about, certainly when stupid debates on Twitter, but also in journalism and elsewhere. In the kind of the last year, the post George Floyd protest, the sort of daily thing that was happening there that you were covering, which is I think it's not happening on a daily basis anymore.
No, it's not.
But when people consume media about that in a kind of passive way, it comes through their feed.
Right.
They have the impression that there is a constant pitched battle between Proud Boys, Patriot Prayer on one side, and Antifa. Every day there's a street battle between these two groups. Explain how that was not your experience.
This is not the case. And I did put something today, and I'm going to qualify it now because I shouldn't have said it this way. I said that last year in 2020, right-wing Proud Boys rolled through like en masse, like as like, we're coming now to fight you guys 4 times. I should have said, as far as I know. Now, somebody asked me, so I went in and checked, and actually, I can only find 2. But I think there were 3. One was a Back the Blue event where people come out and they're supporting the police. Some Proud Boys did show up to that, in addition to the 2 rallies that I can come. And I think that there was something around the election, but I couldn't find it. I couldn't, and I know that some things also got aborted. A lot of times it's like, we're coming, and then nothing really happens because everybody gets upset and they don't get their permits or whatever. When people say that all of the violence being committed on the ground in Portland is due to the Proud Boys rolling through, this is not the case. I understand that would make it an easier way to understand things, that, the people that you think are good are battling the people you think are bad on whatever kind of side you were on. But what they also say is like, well, no, it's not just that, Nancy. It's not just, the Proud Boys or Patriot Prayer, though. Yeah, they are to blame. It's the police. I got again today. The police are committing so many murders in the streets of Portland that's what we're fighting. And I justifiably do believe that these people are fighting the police. There's no doubt. But I have to present the data, guys. Okay, there were 2 people killed by the police last year, and neither was in a protest setting. Okay, I understand that you dislike the police, and I understand that it matches your narrative to say that they are killing everybody in the street. But you have to think, if that is actually not happening, and I put the data up there today, you can go and look for the past 12 years back. This year, actually, there's been, I think, 4. None in the protest situation. Guys, like, it's better to create, you're going to have a stronger narrative with more tensile strength if you actually look at the facts. I understand they're a little inconvenient. I understand for people, I mean, the stuff, I don't know what's being said on me on Twitter. I'm not going and looking at that stuff, but a friend of mine contacted me. He's like, oh my God, Nancy. I'm like, whatever. I know what I do. I know it's convenient if you see me as this horrible person that they're like, what about that guy that killed the people on the tram, which is this horrible story. God, yeah. Horrible. Like, absolutely. They're like, well, what about that, Nancy? I'm like, are you telling me that you think who with 2 fucking working brain cells condones this? Nobody. So please have a conversation with me. Don't just engage in whataboutism. I don't think this is good for anybody, and it's not good for what's going on the ground.
I had a stray Twitter comment that was probably too glib. What do you know is Twitter, but saying that reacting to one of the things in your thread, saying that this, I can't reiterate enough that this doesn't resemble the Portland that I knew going there every year, right, first 19 years of my life and many years thereafter. And a couple people got in my face about that. But one of the counter arguments to that is that are discounting or under remembering the murder of a kid in the late 80s, which I remember very well. But also that Portland was a place where there was some pretty organized skinhead violence in the late 80s and the 90s. There was some ugliness in if Portland was like a moth to the flame in the 80s and the 90s, there was an active right-wing skinhead aspect to that, in addition to the usual kids by the Greyhound station, the drugstore cowboy kids. Yep. Who were definitely everywhere, and they were less political. If there was a politicized violent thing happening in Portland in the 80s and 90s, it was right of center. It was right. And right now, it is left of center. It's left of center. And most of the right wing are coming from over the river. Absolutely. Over the river or down in other parts of Oregon. And I would like to, I don't know if there's anybody here. I put that we're doing this video on the end of the Twitter thread because I really would love people to come in here and talk with us. And I invite them, and I put a link because someone asked, to a piece I just wrote for Persuasion, where I talk about the truly terrible history that Portland has in terms of skinheads and right-wing groups. And I talk about the Ethiopian student that was killed, and I talk about redlining, and I talk about other things. Like everything, let's have the most context we can to understand what's going on here so we go forward in the best ways.
But what's happening is you have people that are gaining, in my opinion, an identity from being sort of radical. They've got the usual enemies, the same enemies, as the Weather Underground had and other radical groups throughout the ages. And and now I think, as Taibbi pointed out, maybe people are going to talk about it a little more. It's a year later. We don't have Trump now as the always enemy. Like, maybe some people are going to be like, I don't know. But also what I wrote today, unfortunately, I think that the people that engaged in the same kind of violence night after night are bored and have gone on to do other things. And who's left? The people that are left are like the hardcore, or the people that are just dickheads, or the people that just want to like do something extreme to maybe gain some identity. That's dangerous. Then it becomes dangerous. Like almost.
And also in the context of the police force and the mayor, actually the civilian side of leading policing in Portland, I think, has made a strategic error. People on the ground with more knowledge might dispute that, but it just seems to me when folks are shooting at one another at political like street LARPing brawls, and you come out of that and say that was a success because like no one got seriously hurt. It's like, no, people are shooting each other at open air street brawls in your town or adjacent to your town. That is something to be avoided. And like the policing should be oriented towards not having that. And I'm afraid that we're going to get to a situation where 6-7 people are going to get killed at a single event. I really am afraid of that.
I don't disagree with that. I mean, mostly the shots have been like paintball guns. But when I reported the day after the election, I was walking, there's 2 young kids open carrying rifles. They were actually super sweet and super polite. And they were marching with the Black Bloc kids. And they're like, we've been here. We're getting a really good reception. We have to protect our peeps. And here's the deal. We grew up in the country. We know how to shoot. We're confident. It's better if we carry guns than like these people that they go to read and they've never even seen a gun. Right. So, but I think it's interesting because someone commented, a very, very, very pro-Antifa person commented today, like, oh, well, when I said like the movement is sort of shrinking in a sense, that's deliberate because we want the people, we want to spin off the people that are not like the serious ones. We want the hardcore, but in a sense, the smaller it gets, the more, I mean, it could die, yes, but it's also you have it becomes sort of potent. And I do worry about that. I've worried about this since last year that, you have fewer people, but they're going to commit more violence on both sides. So anyway, that's what I've been on Twitter
and
about
you're
today.
And to finish the Portland thought, you're going out there for a wedding, and it's an outdoor or like a reception to honor a wedding that already took place. But they couldn't have a party because of COVID. And you're going out there just as the governor of Oregon, wearing a black leather vest for reasons that are difficult to understand.
She was taking her fashion cues from like 1978 Christopher Street. It was bizarre. It's got the leather vest, the weird collar shirt, the pearls, someone said it was a combination of like, you will obey me, but also you can trust me.
She looks like a frumpy librarian wearing it. None of it makes sense.
It was, yes. So yes, it's also, and this is going to segue into what you're talking about. It's she's not following the data, the science. I mean, it's outdoors now. You're going to be masked outdoors. But I think she did add like where appropriate social distancing is not possible. Like, I don't know.
One of the great joys of being in France at the first half of this month was nobody outside wears masks because why would you? I mean, I remember walking from this studio. Remember when we had a little like Reason get together here? And,
yes, with Robbie
was in town.
Yes.
And I remember walking with Robbie from this place, and Robbie, just like in his confidence, handsome young man hair situation, like walked from here to the subway, which is less than 5 minutes away, without a mask. This is like in March or April, or May even. I forget.
Well, we started doing that together before.
I don't know if I was doing it as much as Robbie. Robbie kind of like was the Matt Welch Liberation Front. He helped like free the street mask from me. I know
I've been trying, dude. I don't know what to say. Don't trust me. Trust Robbie. Okay.
Have you seen his hair?
I don't feel like I'm being respected here, but
anyways, no, it's it like once you actually going to Florida kind of cured it.
I'm just going to read a few of these things
Okay.
because someone's impressed with the Ohtani.
No, he's not impressed with the Ohtani. He's trying to.
He's taking the mound. That he's taking the mound. Matt Mikes needs more volume.
We got that.
Hi, Chelly.
I changed that. Okay.
People should consider their carbon footprint. Okay. Godwin's Law. Yes.
We're doing that, yeah.
Ohtani. Shootout's not good for.
This was in May, says Liz Wolf. Okay. Yes. Yeah. She was here. Yeah. In May. Okay. In May, we were still doing, but he was going down to Florida for the Fifth Column live epic live show in early June, and just being in Florida, which is different, and that was of course pre the fourth wave of COVID that's hit down there since.
Did we weren't really we didn't have to wear masks in Florida.
Florida had no masks,
and they were Key West,
not anywhere, not indoors, not
bars,
outdoors.
There
wasn't anything like that, and that kind of like changed the eye level, as they say in baseball. But yeah, being in France was the same way, and the idea of seeing people wearing masks outdoors ever since like drives me insane, in the way that it's probably driven you insane the whole time, and Robbie and other people too. But like when you're just, France, which has, the pass sanitaire, it has laws. It used to say that you couldn't travel more than a kilometer without a note from your doctor from your house. Can you imagine that happening in Idaho?
We would starve to death.
Might be a non-starter. But yeah, to redo that now, 18 months into this stuff, where like we know what causes it. What causes it is me and you being in this room, and you've just got it in it, and you're like doing all the stuff. That's going to cause it. But we're also both vaccinated.
Yes.
So you tell me. And it's just we're not gonna get it in this situation either. And to do this now, and you could just see, after the FDA approval of the Pfizer vaccine and everyone getting happy about vaccine mandates, we're going to see, and like the fourth wave hasn't hit New York yet. It's going to, like, it hasn't, it's
when
south.
It's
going to be, we're going to get in the fall.
Okay.
Okay.
Is Nancy chugging wine from a plastic jug? No, it's grape Powerade. Yeah.
I'm chugging wine from a nice blue something or other.
Matt has wine. A nice,
it's not really chugging because there's not much left.
Well, I can refill you, dude.
Not necessary. But anyways, segue into the thing I just wrote for Reason. I'll read it into the record at Paloma Media, as we've been doing, which is very fun. And thank you for the people who suggested doing that.
Could you explain what that means?
So whatever I write and whatever Nancy writes, hopefully from now on, you've done one or two, right?
Mm-hmm.
We just do a reading of it, because realize that some people have just decided now that they consume their media with their earballs only, or the truckers or whatever. Like, it's just that's a great place to do it. And so I read the articles I do with a little, maybe some jackass asides and commentary, and sometimes some follow-up of stuff that's happened since the thing went on. So I will do that tomorrow. You'll be able to find it on this same channel, right?
Yep. When he reads it, and I'm going to give a little plug before he goes out. So our friend Yael said to me, Nancy, you've got the studio. You got to get in there more. So I'm starting to have coffee here at 9 a.m. in the mornings, live on YouTube. Did it yesterday, did it today, 5-10 minutes. You can come talk to me, have some coffee, have some questions. And I don't know, somehow I get up first and look at Twitter and get a little exercised about something. We talk a little bit about that or whatever. So if you want to tune in here, 9 a.m. Eastern time, I'll usually be here.
Coffee with Nancy.
Why not?
Sometimes with special guests, maybe. Who knows?
That's right. Well,
don't know who. Won't be Michael Moynihan. I don't
know. We got the bed now here. We might just roll him into the bed, drag him out of the apartment. Yeah. Okay.
The studio, people, for those of you who haven't been in it yet, which might be most of you, studio.
I think probably, but you should hit us up when you're if you're around.
Yeah. It's something to behold, not just because of the Ohtani painting by Craig Mahoney. That's spectacular. Anyways, so I wrote today about COVID numbers. Because it's very frustrating. I'm a parent. I have 2 kids, 6 and 13. I probably talk about them too much, but use them as a way to get into talking about school policy and also risk assessment for what do we do with the 6-year-old who can't get vaccinated, and the 13-year-old who has been but is. Hi, Easy. She's probably watching this.
Hi, Easy.
I shouldn't say anything rude about my teen. But no, in school policies, and what does that all mean? And I went back and read a thing that I wrote 1 year and like 2 weeks ago. And it was basically, the headline was like, the media is making it impossible to assess school and COVID risks. And like, just read sentence by sentence of it. It's the same damn thing.
You just use the same headline, redux or whatever.
And except it's with Delta. It's as if everything we've learned for 12 months about kids, which is that they disproportionately do not catch it. They disproportionately do not suffer from it. They disproportionately do not transmit it. Even Delta. But Delta as a proportion as itself is more.
Right.
So kids are going to be doing it more as a percentage, but still compared to the population, when exposed, they're going to catch it less and suffer from it less and whatnot. And the settings in which they're hanging out with other kids are going to be not some of the most dangerous places, not to be super spreader events, as the former New York governor recently had said.
So Matt, then why is it we keep reading these articles? Oh my God, the pediatric wards are completely filled.
Because they are.
Okay. So then shouldn't we be super alarmed about that?
Absolutely. You should be alarmed. And you should also try to figure out, are they there for COVID? Which in many cases they're not.
Oh my God. I actually didn't even think of that.
Yeah, no, there's a whole like surge of, I can't say it. It's RSV.
Right.
It's a disease that I knew everything about, which means I heard about it for the first time 3 weeks ago.
Some lung thing?
Yeah, it's a respiratory thing that kids get and spread, and there's no real vaccine for it, and it was suppressed artificially for 18 months, 2 years, because why? No kids were hanging out with each other. So it's unusual for it to spike in the summer. It's spiking in the summer. So in a lot of the places, you almost never get a breakdown of the ICU beds of which, how many are RSV and how many are COVID, but that's absolutely an effect. In some places that I've read, it's been more people in there for RSV than for COVID. So that is one reason why that's happening, but that's also happening where the surge is happening, where the fourth wave is happening, which is Florida, Gulf Coast, and Mississippi. And again, it has consistently been a seasonal and regional disease. So it will travel from there to other places that are less easy to sneer about their policies or whatever it is that you don't like about them.
Right. So we have to stop saying it's those people in Mississippi. It's their fault, because just if they're getting it first, 3 weeks from now?
Although, in fairness, Mississippi has like vaccination rates of like 36%.
Yeah, so that's a problem. I mean,
so that contributes to it all. But anyways, the precipitating thing for my piece today is just simply, and this is what I beseech you all as you consume your media about this going forward. There is one place in America where we have a massive ongoing test to see actually whether schools are super spreader events, what percentage of the population within the schools, students, staff, teachers, whatever, are infected and don't know about it, asymptomatic, right?
Yep.
And how that compares to the community spread. That place is a little city called Los Angeles, where you and I first met 1,000 years ago. The LA Unified School District, they're making 500,000 tests a week. They're testing everybody.
And it's a nasal.
It's the usual javelin in the nose. So they're testing everybody, whether you're vaccinated or not. You're getting the test, and they have a mandatory vaccine for teachers and staff that they have to do it by October 15th. And so they've created this massive data set. So from a journalistic standpoint, I say, regardless of what you think about policy, I mean, it's costing $350 million. That's like a lot of money. Even in Joe Biden's America, that's a lot of money. But like, regardless of that, if we just treat it as like data, think about approaching that as a journalist or even someone who's interested in public policy and public health. Like, wow, great, we have a big study.
Half a million
people
Woo!
Every week, and we get to keep it and watch it and look at it. And let me tell you a headline that one might make of that study that would be totally accurate from this week, which is that during ongoing semi-surge in California of the Delta variant, California's had weird numbers. The students and staff, after having gone back to school full time, their rates are going down. Went down from 0.8% before they went into a school building to, after their first week or so of school, down to 0.6%. Like, wow, that's pretty good and big news. And it's also that percentage is much.
Is it 0.6 or 0.06? It's 0.6. Okay, 0.6.
So one out of whatever.
A sixth of a person out of 100 people.
Thank you. So
no.
It's not.
That was wrong too. But anyway, you get it.
It's not a lot. And again, we don't know anything about the breakdown of the tests, how many are actually sick. I would guess most of them are not very sick at all, because consistently, even through the Delta variant, only 2% of kids get sick enough to go to a hospital if they catch it. And then much, much, much lower get like really sick. So this is good news. But if you're also trying to like get eyeballs and sell newspapers, how could you present that data the way to maximally freak the people out? Sorry, trying to not use the F-bomb there. Well, you got a denominator of 500,000. So it doesn't matter how small the percentage is, that numerator is going to look huge. And so I went, and this is what got me mad, is I did a Google search on this, just trying to like wrap my own head around the numbers, figure them out. Every single headline, there's no exception to this. Do it yourself. Do Los Angeles Unified School District COVID weekly test or something like that. Every headline is 1,893 students test positive. That's a big number.
That's so scary. Oh my God, that's almost 2,000 kids tested positive.
325. Like it's always the number stripped of that context looks huge. You can that's a sizable concert. You know, and just imagine the Palladium, as one of our friends did. You know, filled with that. What are we doing? My God, we're infecting everybody. No, we're not actually. The number of them who were, again, before school year started that were testing positive was 0.8%. Now they went back to school. They all went. They shared their germs. They're in the buildings and everything like that, and it went down from there. And it's continuing to go down. But if you present it only as the raw number that looks large, and you don't spend much time at the top of the piece mentioning this, it's going to scare the bejeebus out of people. And it's driving me nuts because at this late date in the pandemic, after journalism has screwed up too much stuff of this with disastrous consequences, right? Like the journalism from a year ago that I was mentioning at the top contributed to policymakers making this very preventative strategy of like, well, we don't know what's going on. Kids are germ vectors. Let's shut down schools. Most of big school districts were shut down last fall. We now know that was a mistake because schools are safer places. And we also know that kids really, 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 really suffered from not being in school. It is catastrophic, in the words of the New York Times editorial board and most people who've looked at it in any length of seriousness. So we shouldn't try to get the clickbait on the headline by doing the raw number thing when there's a more numerate way to treat what is a gift of a gigantic data set. Damn it, Nancy Rommelman.
Well, I mean, this is such a failure on the parts of journalists. It's like you're making the public extremely insecure. I mean, if I went in and said, 1,896 out of 500,000, most people would read that and go like, oh, it's kind of a sucky number. I mean, 1,800 kids, but it's 500,000 people. It's not that big a deal. But no, that's probably like buried way like down in paragraph 5, if it's even mentioned at all. I mean, do they mention like how big of a people that they are testing?
The average is like paragraph 5 to 7 is what you get that. And you also will get quotes from people like in an LA Times story from yesterday, where the headline was, 6,500 kids are held out of school because of quarantine. You're like, oh, that's a lot. It's a big number. And then down ways you have, and officials from the LA Unified School District say they don't know of a single case where kids transmitted, or a single case of people catching it in the schools.
I mean, it's always obviously
that's some news.
Some curious to you and me because we don't engage in that kind of journals. Like, you have to check yourself. I don't know why they're not checking themselves. Between journalists fear mongering and the teachers unions, who apparently are putting themselves out of business, which is the New York Post piece that you posted, which is, okay, this is so freaking shocking.
Yeah, so I know people at this school. It's my district. It's the richer people up in Park Slope. But a elementary school there has lost between the 2018 to 19 school year and now. Their enrollment has gone down from 345 to 225. They've lost a gigantic sum of people from there, and as a result, they've had to let go 5 teachers, I believe, and I think a couple of others have also gone. Maybe the total number is 8, because in most school districts, there is per student funding of teaching positions. You can't just like keep the teacher reserve there. And so this is something that I have been predicting for a long time for a couple of different reasons, but certainly with COVID and school reopening policies. And it's actually true in our case. We have an elementary school kid and the middle school kid staying in the middle schools, but we pulled our elementary school kid into private school, which is not something that we ever like really wanted to do at all, but because we lost faith in the school system to be reliably open. And all the private system has remained open in New York, and we're going to go to a school that will be open the entire time, right across the street. And even though Bill de Blasio is making very loud and strong noises, almost surprisingly, school's going to be open. There's going to be no remote learning at all, and that teachers must be vaccinated. There's so many other different parts of that picture. What are the quarantining rules? How long do you have to go? Close contacts and whatever. That there's just no confidence, and so you're going to see widespread plummets, because this fall is the first time many families have had the opportunity to actually make a plan. Right? This hit in March 2020, so that was the end of the 1920 year.
Right.
Then the fall last year, everyone was freaking out, didn't really know what happened. So it was just sort of like the shock year. And so people had enough time to sort of move or change systems or get into homeschooling, which has been a huge increase out there. There's a connection between the way that journalism has been conducted about this kind of stuff and the policy making of it. And then now what's going to be a numerical decimation of public schools, I think.
I mean, maybe it's the same with every single story, but there are similarities between how do you report the story and then how do people feel about it and what policies are made. I mean, we saw the same thing happen, in Portland, right? If it's reported this certain way, then people feel like, well, we've got to take these, certain measures. I'll just say one more thing about Portland. You mentioned the mayor before, and like, is it okay that you're going and shooting people in the streets? Well, he's changed his tune. He's trying to be a tougher guy now because he sees what's going on.
He's moved his apartment.
Yeah, you do know this. I don't know if people know this. Like the activists, like they camped out in his lobby and then they set fire in his streets and danced around it and said, "You got to move," and he moved. That was last year. I'm sorry, I didn't mean to cut you off about the schooling stuff.
But, no, that's all fine, and our time is
yeah. I think our time is up. We got a bunch of questions, but I think we're going to probably have to.
Wanted to say hi to Sandy Balzer.
Hi, Sandy Balzer.
And a bunch of other people
yeah,
too.
My friend
I am
Shelley
Brad
was
K. Says that's like a half a palladium inside 10 soldier fields, which is a very good comment. And other people hate us.
Yeah, there are some haters. That's fine.
Libertarians with kids shouldn't attend public schools. Goes against your principle. Thank you, Elijah. I'd never heard that before.
Yeah, wow.
So now
really?
that you've opened my eyes, like it changes everything.
Does the journalist have a better chance of getting a story published, promoted, supported if they take an angle that drives fear clicks? I'm sure there are some. I mean, I've had people ask me that, like, oh, don't your editors like want you to do a certain thing that they want you to like take us out? I have never in the past. No.
Your last big Portland piece was like, hey, it's maybe better than you think.
My last Portland piece for Portland for Persuasion a couple of weeks ago was, I think things are looking up, and I got some hate from that. What are you saying? The place could be a shithole forever and ever. I'm like, well, I don't know. It doesn't look that way to me. But and what you were saying too about, I made a comment on your post about, it's not like the Portland. I used to know, guys, most of Portland looks beautiful. It's green. These people are super nice, but there is an element going on there that's continually causing some insecurity. So let's just hope for the best.
Let's hope for the best.
Let's hope for the best.
Nice
everyone.
to see all of you again.
Yeah.
And we'll come back sooner next time.
Yeah. We'll see you guys pretty soon. Thanks a lot.
I'll dress nicer.
Bye.
I swear.